So, a hilarious twist has Cracker Barrel on edge as the chain freaks out over the backlash from its failed logo change. Now, this isn't happening outward, of course, but inward, they're actually going nuts right now and panicking in real time. And Cracker Barrel isn't what it used to be. Now, as you all know, for years, Cracker Barrel was once the spot where, people who leaned right felt at home, but that loyalty has broken. Now, I just want to let you all know this restaurant, if people go in there, they weren't political. It wasn't about being political or anything. But the whole drama with the logo change turned into a turning point, and now Cracker Barrel is losing ground fast among people on the right. So people who once counted on Cracker Barrel are walking away, and the numbers are starting to prove it. Now, from mid-August through early September 2025, of course, this month, the restaurant traffic for Cracker Barrel has dropped about 8%. Now, that was a sharp decline compared to the 1% dip seen earlier in the month. So it was kind of slight downturn that proved something shifted in the customer base. And that particular shift happened right after the rollout of the new logo. You see, it was tied directly to a decision made in the boardroom itself. You see, as you all know, they quietly replaced its long-standing design, the one that the customers recognized instantly with Uncle Herschel on it, with a stripped-down minimal version. Now, this new look actually removed Uncle Herschel, the iconic figure that was leaning on the barrel, and simply just swapped it with, a more modern lines and stuff. On paper, they thought that it was a branding refresh, but in reality, it was like the company was cutting off parts of its identity. The customers noticed immediately, and then the anger spread fast online. Okay. So at the same time, Cracker Barrel began remodeling some of its restaurants. So far, they did 4 of them, pulling out the antique decorations and swapping out the old-fashioned country store aesthetic. Now, longtime customers connected the dots where they saw that this wasn't about a sign. It was just about a sign. It was about changing the whole look and feel of the chain itself. And the backlash wasn't only about art on the wall. It was about a deeper fear that Cracker Barrel was erasing what people loved most about it, okay? And honestly, it's no surprise because, well, the food was in sharp decline for over 10 years and everything. And then on August 26th, the company had announced that they decided to go ahead and reverse course with the logo decision and bring back the classic design. The original old timer emblem returned to the storefronts, but that wasn't enough for that because the damage was already done. It just simply showed the polling has showed that Cracker Barrel was slipping, and its once ironclad connection to those who are on the right, the diners who were leaning right or conservative, looked weaker. A hasty backtrack didn't erase the fact that the company chose to go ahead and walk away from its identity in the first place. Okay, so yeah, that reversal wasn't enough to go ahead and stop the bleeding in customer traffic. The 8% drop was a direct hit to its sales forecasts. Executives of the company now say they expect this trend to continue through the quarter. In the restaurant business, you see, small dips can be absorbed, but this wasn't small. It was a sudden collapse in the foot traffic, and analysts quickly downgraded their outlook, simply just warning that they face a tough recovery ahead. So the company's stock tumbled more than 3% when the backlash had first erupted and then continued sliding. Now, by mid-September, shares were down nearly 16% compared to where they were before the logo was revealed. And investors saw more than a public relations mess. They saw a leadership team that misjudged its own customers. Now, to them, the logo fiasco wasn't just a design mistake, it was a sign of strategic failure on their part. Now, the company tried to go ahead and soften the blow with a few moves. It restored popular menu items to signal nostalgia. It suspended further remodeling plans, announcing that, it would just pause on rolling out modernized interiors and it leaned into marketing around, tradition, just hoping to remind people what they loved and stuff about Cracker Barrel. But analysts warn that these corrections might not win back younger diners who reacted strongly to the back and forth instead of just reaching, new customers. You see, Cracker Barrel ended up frustrating both old and new customers. Now, according to surveys, Chick-fil-A has now taken over the top spot that was once held by Cracker Barrel as the most trusted chain among, Republican voters as well as young people. And that swap is more than symbolic, okay? It actually reflects how quickly consumer loyalty can move when a brand loses its identity. At least Chick-fil-A gained from staying consistent while Cracker Barrel just simply fell from, experimenting with changes its base never asked for. Okay, now adding to the pressure, Cracker Barrel is now facing this proxy battle from investor Sardar Biglari, who's also the owner of Steak and Shake. Okay, so Biglari filed to shake up the board, arguing that the logo fiasco highlighted deeper problems with the company's direction. You see, he criticized the CEO, Julie Fells Massino, and her team for failing to understand their customer base and warned them that the current leadership risks running the company further into decline. And that kind of shareholder, revolt is rare in this particular sector, and it also shows how shaken investors are by the fallout. Now, Biglari's push simply came after the company had already announced cuts elsewhere. 14 Maple Street Biscuit Company, as I reported before, a brand owned by Cracker Barrel, are set to close and stuff. And that was pitched as a cost-saving move, but it reinforced the image of a company pulling back instead of just simply growing. Now, expansion plans have been shelved, and the leadership over at Cracker Barrel is now focused on damage control. Now, for a chain that once prided itself on steady growth, it's a sharp reversal at this point. But if you want to go ahead and get better with the people and bring them back, you got to first not only bring back the food, but also fire the CEO, okay, as well as have a replacement of certain members of the board. Now, as you all know, the White House even took credit for helping push Cracker Barrel to restore the original logo, showing that the pressure from the president influenced the company's decision. You see, that particular statement actually elevated the fiasco from a corporate misstep into a cultural spectacle. Now, it wasn't just a restaurant walking back a bad choice. It was framed as a political correction, with national leaders weighing in on what should have been a straightforward and branding decision. Okay, so simply put, reversing a logo doesn't erase the feeling that the company was willing to ditch its heritage in the first place. Okay, so once that suspicion sets in, it changes the relationship. Diners who once felt at home now question what else might be changed next. Okay. For a chain that built its brand on nostalgia, familiarity, as well as home cooked meals, those doubts are poisonous. Okay. So right now, Cracker Barrel is in recovery mode. Its leadership still insists it will reconnect with customers by returning to, what worked. But analysts warn that the damage could last. And younger diners weren't impressed with the whole rebrand or the reversal. And the older diners felt betrayed. Or no, they were actually betrayed. That's the worst of both worlds. Rebuilding will take time, and every bad choice will be magnified by a public that already feels burned. Okay. So yeah, Cracker Barrel just went from being a cultural anchor for people, for diners who to a brand in retreat, all because of one misjudged rebrand. And the logo fiasco sparked an 8% traffic decline, a 16% stock slump, and a proxy battle for control of the board. So basically, Cracker Barrel triggered political commentary from the White House, and the cost of the company reputation is spent decades building. Okay, so whether Cracker Barrel can climb back remains to be seen. But the one truth is clear: when you tamper with the identity that made you, the backlash can strip you of your own of your crown overnight. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Be sure to smash the like button, share the video far wide across social media, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell for future uploads, notifications, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace.